सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखम् आप्नुयात्. May all be happy, may all be healthy, may all see auspiciousness and goodness everywhere, may no one have any sorrow. With this prayer we begin the Navaratri celebrations in our Satyasai Grama, where we all have gathered, some offline, some online, some in line, some out of line. But we have gathered here to pray for the welfare of the whole world. Just now he said, Sarvabhuta hite rataha, the one who is always engaged in doing good to the world, such a person alone is a person of true wisdom. And our Upanishads, our Vedas, our scriptures have always encouraged us to pray for the welfare of all. Not because they are others, they are our own selves in other forms. And therefore, in everybody's happiness lies our happiness. In everybody's health lies our health. In everybody's goodness lies our goodness. In everybody's welfare lies our welfare. With this idea of oneness, which is proclaimed by the Upanishads, proclaimed by the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Viveka Chudamani, name the scriptures and they all talk about this one. Ekam meva advitiyam. There is only one without the second. The second is an illusion. The other day a boy came to me with a couple of books on his birthday and he wanted me to bless all the books because he wanted to read starting from Tripura Rahasya and the likes. And they are all very deep and intense Vedantic scriptures. Then I told him, see, whatever you do, at the end of it, the essence, the crux is just this much, which Adi Shankaracharya has put it in a simple couplet. He says, Shlokardena pravakshami yadoktam grantakotibihi brahma satyam jagan mithya jivo brahmaiva napara. In half a shloka, I will tell you what has been written in crores of books. And that is simple. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. That Brahman, that divinity alone is truth and everything else is an illusion. Jagat means that which comes and goes. Anything that comes and goes is not eternal. So that is Mithya. It's an illusion. Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. You are yourself Brahman. You yourself are divine and nothing else. This is all the essence of all the Indian scriptures, the Vedantic scriptures, Vedas, Vedangas. At the end of it, they all finally conclude in this one thought. And I am so glad that when 6 months ago we began this effort to teach Upanishads, to teach some of the very important scriptures, Narada Bhakti Sutras, be some parts of Viveka Chudamani, some bit of Tripura Rahasya, Ashtavakra Gita. There was an intention, there was an aim behind all these things. And the idea was that in Tripura Rahasya, a mention comes that how Hemalekha teaches her husband Hemachuda about the great idea of this Upanishad, the oneness of divinity alone, and how she transforms him first and through him all the kingdom. And ultimately the whole place is called as Vidyanagari. Even parrots would talk about Vedantic truths. The businessmen will do their business, the potters will do their pottery, the teachers will continue to teach, the kings will continue to rule, everybody will do their own work, but at the same time all of them were Brahmajnanis. They all were the ones who had experienced the self and they are convinced completely through that experience. And I said, I would like to see a day when Satyasai Grama would transform into a Vidyanagari. And today I see the green shoots in the hearts of these young girls and boys who are so convinced about this Vedantic truth. This is a great fulfillment. Sa vidyaya vimuktaye. We go on proclaiming from the podiums. That alone is education which leads you to liberation. Everything else is not education. Atma Vidya Vidyanam, we say. That education which teaches you about your own true self, that alone is true education. Everything else is information, collection of facts and figures. And today I hear these Upanishadic truths resound in Premamrutam Hall through the mouths of young children who are in their early 20s. And they talk with such conviction and clarity that gives me great and tremendous satisfaction. What else does a teacher want but to see his students learn and benefit from the wisdom that has been shared? And that gives great joy to me. The first and foremost thing that I want to convey is my happiness that our students have been able to understand with such clarity and develop such conviction, and that will bring experience. That is a natural outcome of conviction. When you believe in something, it comes. You live that eventually. So this is a wonderful feeling, wonderful experience to listen to these, and I'm sure everybody around the world would share this great fulfillment, the great satisfaction in listening to such great truths. Coming to Sharada Navaratri, which is the most auspicious part of the year, and wonderful rituals and worships have begun. Some people may think, on one side he preaches Vedanta, everything is illusion, and other side he continues to promote rituals and worships and offerings and things like that. So what is the common ground between the two? And somebody asked, then the thing is, that is Nirguna Brahman, this is Saguna Brahman. That is all is the difference. That is unmanifest, this is manifest, but both are Brahman. So there is no dichotomy or there is no kind of disconnect between the two. On one side, when you look at the Vedanta, also enjoy that same Brahman manifesting in so many forms, so many ways, in so many things, and enjoy that part of God's Leela as well. So you should be able to see through the rituals into the spiritual aspect of all these rituals. Most of the Indian rituals which have been derived from the Karmakandas of the Vedas, they comprise of yajnas, yagas, homas, havanas, and some of them are going on. We perform some homas and yagas today. For the benefit of those children, that why do we do this? Why do we take all these things and put it into fire? At the end it all becomes ash. What benefit does it give anybody? But to this our scriptures have defined it very clearly. See, Paroksha Priya Havai Devaha, it says. The Devatas, the forces of nature, which govern the creation, which ensure that everything in its place, and we get what we need for our daily existence, their survival, they are all there, but they are in the subtle, the sukshma, paroksha, not pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means direct, paroksha means indirectly they are available. And how do they receive anything that we give to them? All that which is direct or pratyaksha has to be converted into paroksha, in the subtle, from the gross, to make it available to them to enjoy and experience. When we like somebody or when we are grateful to someone, we carry a gift of their liking to them as a token of our gratitude. Similarly, in these yajna yagas, when we perform the rituals, we offer certain oblations which are specific to those particular gods and goddesses. They reach them. How? By themselves converting into sukshma. That is the truth, that is the Vedantic truth, that is the ultimate experience of the rishis. They chanted Narayana Suktam, they described Narayana in so many ways. How do they know that Narayana looks like this? All these are experiences of rishis. Rishis were called mantra drishtas. They got these mantras not because of sitting and writing like a poetry. They got these mantras as visions. When they were connected with their truest, highest self, they had the vision of these deities. And in that, whatever experience they had, they spoke it out or they said it out in the form of these mantras. And when we chant these mantras, we can also have that vision. It's like two-way. They saw and then they spoke about it. We speak about it and then we get to see them. Like a two-way road. And so these mantras also have their own place in our rituals. And when mananat trayate, they say, iti mantra, that by meditating upon which we can cross over is a mantra, or we can attain that experience is a mantra. So all these mantras are also equally important. And we heard a lot of mantras today, Ganapati Tarva Shirsham, something from uh, Durga Suktam, something from various other in this Bengali tradition of Chandi Homa. All these vibrations, they go far and wide. They just don't belong here. They reach every corner, Ahakasha. And therefore, these are very, very powerful sounds. I have always Shabda Brahmamai, sound is God. A good sound produces good vibrations, good feelings. These mantras are those pure sacred sounds that travel across the entire universe, not just here and there. And therefore, they spread this energy, they spread this vibration to all corners. And today, the world that it is going through a kind of depression, anxiety, and so many other issues, be it financial, be it personal, emotional. At this point of time, these sounds, sacred sounds of the Vedas, mantras, they are the only refuge. Somebody came and asked me, Swami, what medicines should I take further? I said, no medication. You need meditation now. Medication times are over. They're all treating only the physical, the external. They're only scratching the surface. The real problem is inside. And that's where meditation helps. When you meditate on these mantras, on these Vedantic truths, that redeems us of this bhavaroga, the disease of this samsara, which is like a cancer, eating into our happiness, our peace, by continuously bothering us, worrying us, making us anxious. But such a person who is established in Vedantic truths will never be shaken by these ephemeralities of the world. And therefore, these Vedas, mantras are important, and these rituals are a way to convey to those deities who are also there protecting us, guarding us, and conveying our gratitude. Agni Suktam says, Agni Mile Purohita. Agni itself, the fire itself is the Purohita. I call him a postman. They call it Purohita. He carries our messages, he carries our offerings to the gods and goddesses on the other side, the higher planes of existence. And this Agni converts everything from gross into subtle. If you look at Taittiriya Upanishad, they talk about the creation and they say how these 5 elements came about. From the Atman came the Akasha, they say. Atman Akasha Sambhutaha. Then Akasha, Vayu, air. Vayo, Agnihi, fire. Agne, Apaha, water. Adhyak Prithvi, thereafter came the earth. So from the Atman came the Akasha, space. Space means it's just emptiness. There is nothing there except that it's a substratum. It's like a vessel that contains everything else in itself. So space is everywhere. We all studied quantum theory. We know space is everywhere, in every atom, in subatomic particles. Everywhere there is space. But if you see, we are all made of just space. 99.99% of the universe is space. And these are the forces that hold the things together, therefore we don't collapse into each other. But from the space came the gases which form the air. And from this air came fire. Oxygen is in the air, and that is necessary for combustion, for fire. Now watch the sequence. Akasha, Vayu, Agni. Agni is the third in the 5 elements. And after Agni there are 2 more elements of water. When temperature comes down, what happens? Vapor becomes water. Further, water becomes ice. So form has started appearing from the fire. Before fire there is no form. So Akasha and Vayu are Sukshma. Fire is the first time from Paroksha, Pratyaksha is emanating. It is like something in between the gross and the subtle. Water and earth are grosser. So we are generally made of water and earth because so much of water in us, and we're made of all the elements of the earth. And fire stands in between the gross world and the subtle world, like the doorkeeper. So if you want to hand over something to the person on the other side of the door, you have to give it to the doorkeeper, he'll go and give it. That's how fire finds such an important place in our rituals, because it converts all the gross into the subtle. And that is why we offer everything into the fire transforms them, be it clothes, be it grains, be it ghee or any other offerings, flowers, fruits, it converts them into the grosser form and it goes there. See, when we die in Hindu culture, we also offer ourselves, our bodies into fire. Vayor anil amritam athedam bhasmantagum shariram krutosmara kritagum smara krutosmara kritagum smara, says the Ishavasya Upanishad, that at the end of our lives we offer ourselves into the fire. And now this air, vital air of our life, body, is now merging in the eternal air, eternal space through fire. And we become ash. Pasmantagam shariram. We become fire. At that time what remains is not the physical body anymore. Panchabhutas go back to Panchabhutas, but what remains behind is Krutosmara, what we have done in our lives. The good deeds that we have done, that alone remains behind, everything else disappears with the body. So these are good deeds. Sarva loka hite rata. To help others. Paropakaraya punyaya. These are good deeds. And when we do these rituals, many of these modern thinking rationalists and scientists, they condemn such practices. Somebody will come up and say, why don't you offer that to some poor, they can feed. These are the people who themselves don't do any feeding or any helping, but they are here to lecture others. However, these are very significant things. When a farmer throws seeds in the soil, some may say, why is he starving and throwing the grains in the soil? Instead, he could feed himself and his family. But farmer knows, if he eats full stomach today, tomorrow he is going to starve. So a part of it he sacrifices in terms of offering it to the earth, and earth gives it back 1,000 folds, with which he survives the next day and the next year. These rituals are our ways to convey our gratitude to the gods, and fire is the Purohita, the postman, the mediator, the doorkeeper, whichever way you call it, the courier boy. Now it is online, means lot of courier work happens. So he carries our things to those gods, and those gods are there for real. They are there who protect us all the time. This Ganapati Atharva Shirsham, they chanted such beautiful description of Ganapati. Raktam Lambodaram Shurpakarnakam Raktavasasam Raktagandha Anuliptangam Raktapushpai Subhujitam Bhaktanu Kampinam Daivam Jagat Karanamachyutam. They are describing your reddish complexion of Ganapati, sharp ears, all kinds of Chaturbhujam, Pasha Ankushadharam, Varada Radham Hastam. So these are all visions that these rishis have had. And that is what they have told us in their compassion. Otherwise we wouldn't know how Ganapati would look like. And they have told what is the role of Ganapati, what he does. Likewise, all these Devis are there, these forces of nature, these forces who help us. And the Navaratri is a celebration of these forces who help us to lead our lives. Yesterday we heard 3 of these Shaktis we worship: Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati. Durga is Mahakali also. Helps us to get rid of our tamasic nature, the animal qualities. Lakshmi creates Rajasic nature, the desire and the ability to do action, perform actions in the world. And Saraswati provides us with the right attitude. Why should these actions be performed? Chittasya shuddhaye. For purification of one's mind, these actions should be performed. And this Kriya Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, these 3 Shaktis coming together helps us to do our things in the world, including realize our divinity. We need all these. And these are personified as these mother goddesses who give us the strength, who bless us when we propitiate them, we worship them with the ability, with the intent, with the strength to follow on the spiritual path. The girl was telling, if I can't run, I would walk. If I can't walk, I would crawl. But I shall not stop. Upanishads, they say, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varanya Bodhata. Get up and walk, and don't stop till you reach your goal. I told her, you don't even have to worry about walking, running or crawling. I will carry you, you fly with me. I am the wind beneath your wings. I will help you fly with these 2 wings of love and service. You don't have to crawl. You are not such creature to crawl and walk. You are born of divinity. You are here to fly, soar high into the spiritual skies. Therefore, don't have low aim, have high aim. I am divine as I am. Let the mind say 100 things. I shall not believe that. I will believe one thing, that I am divine. Why? Because he said, scriptures say that. Scriptures say, Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvam Masi. All these are great Mahavakyas from the scriptures. I am Atma Brahma. And they have told it in so many ways, in so many times. While reading Upanishads, we have come across all these great truths. And believing in them is Shraddha. The one who believes gets to live the truth. And Guru Vakyasya, when a Guru tells you, the one who has experienced, then he tells you from the experience, and you believe that, that also helps you to experience it. Therefore, this is our greatest good fortune, that we are born as humans. In being humans, we are born in a country like India, which is the source of all these great spiritual truths. And in being born in the womb of Mother India is not, we are born and are able to come to a place like this where we are able to learn such great truths. 10 kilometers outside, nobody knows anything about all this. Why 10 kilometers? A kilometer outside, people would not know. But we are sitting here and discussing such great truths. And we are discussing in such holy times, such auspicious times as Navaratri. This is the greatest fortune that one can ask for. And therefore, utilize this time properly, use it well, and use all the opportunity to contemplate further and develop your conviction even stronger and stronger. The more you think, Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavati, the more you think you are divine, you become divine. I always quote this. Tigrit says, despite whatever I am, I believe I am divine. Why? Because my Guru said so. And why should my Guru lie? That is it. So Tigrit is very clear. I am divine, that is it. Whatever you think of me is different, but what I think of myself is I am divine. And that is what our Upanishads said. The more we think about it, contemplate on it, it will become a way of our life. Thought, word and deed, all these will come together, and that is the right attitude, right approach to life. So believe that you are divine. These rituals, these mantras, these Vedas, yajnas, festivals are all there to finally point us towards that one truth only. That you and everything else is divine. Aham Brahma, Sarvam Brahma. And that should be the achievement of one's life, not anything else. While on one side we do the rituals, we talk about Vedanta, today also we have a small cultural presentation of devotional songs from across the country. How different saints and sages, they may not have known Sanskrit, they might not have read Upanishads and Vedas, but with their own experience, they have spoken of these truths, sung these truths in their own native languages. From Adi Shankaracharya in Sanskrit, to Annamacharya in Telugu, to Basavanna or Akkamahadevi in Kannada, to Abhangs of Namadeva in Marathi, to Mirabai in those days of the Hindi of those days. In all ways, this truth has been spoken about, heard in this country, Bharat. We are so fortunate that we are able to receive this truth, we are able to understand it, contemplate on it, and we are on our way to experience it. There cannot be a greater fortune than this. Thinking like this, always congratulate yourself that you are born humans, you are born in India, you are born in times when you are able to think and discuss these things, and you are right now in a place in these holy times, at least the next 9 or 10 days, to further think about these truths. I bless that all of you would benefit with this opportunity, and day after day after day you will get closer and closer to your divine self, till there remains no confusion, no doubt, no separateness, but only oneness in your hearts. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu.